You know, like on this side, you can see where they've dug sections out and taken them away. Over here, they've dug sections out and propped them up, you know, with wood to hide things, and left the brick. I mean, all this stuff gets removed over time, bit by bit, until all you're left with is just a pile of mud, right? But what I'm getting at here is look, you've been told, and I believed, that these were actually caused by weathering. Okay, you know, these ridges were caused by weathering, and I'm going to say now that they're not. This is actually structural. It's actually like floors, yeah? It's collapsed structure, just like these, but bigger, that have collapsed down on each other and then got covered over in mud and clay. And that's actually what you're looking at, because when you look at it, you can actually see the structure inside this thing. If you don't believe me, go to my Google page and take a closer look. This is the type of thing I'm talking about. This is not being carved. It's an imprint of how this thing was built, okay? The Sphinx head. Can you see this framework here? It's actually a frame, and that frame bit there actually runs all the way around here, like that. Can you see the rim of that actually runs all the way around and joins up with that? It's framing, girders and beams. It's a built structure, and the evidence for that is on this one image. Yeah, I have got something else that I wanted to show you tonight. I've had these images up on my Google page for over a week now. We're just getting round to showing you it and checking over what I was going to show you before I actually did it, yeah. So you can go check the images and the video from Brian Forrester, which is this one. It's called Lost Ancient High Technology Artifacts, the Cairo Museum of Egypt. And I just want to show you this. This video may not stay on my channel for too many days because it's nothing major. It's not well done, but anyway.
They did the work, and not like the Romans, they didn't cut it into pieces and use it. They left it. It had to be perfect the first time. If not, we discard it and do it over. Thank God they left it. This is the ultimate smoking gun. No content. Did I drop the mic? As was.
Right, so you've just heard this so-called expert called Stephen Mailer from the chematology group, and he's called this artifact the ultimate smoking gun. So he's just rested his hat on top of this, right? And he's talking about this being some softening of stone, which I've got into as being crap, and a high technology saw and all this going down here. But this artifact is being done so poorly, it's obviously been done by hand with an handsaw, right? And you're going to see a line down here shortly which has been gouged out without even putting it up against a straight edge. Is how poorly this thing was done. The civilization that created this, because I'm saying it was wood, right? It was buried wherever, leached material from the Great Flood or whatever it was, and it's turned into this material, right? I know you don't like what I've just said, but I'm going to show you an artifact after this which you should see, right? So just wait. But you can see how wonky this is, right? It's ridiculous. I'll show you an image shortly that shows you how badly that's been done. So we'll move on.
Said in the previous clip by Stephen Mailer, whoever was operating this saw made a mistake. The saw went off course. Very human trait. This, and then this large granite box has tube drills. You see.
Right, he's just said that this is a large granite box. This stuff here is exactly the same as what the box is made out of in the Great Pyramid and the walls, right? And I'm telling you that this stuff here on the screen now was once wood. I don't know if it was a wood that doesn't exist anymore. Something happened to the environment that changed this stuff into this, or if it's leach material from being buried or whatever. Or is it just crushed wood, yeah? You know, loads of bits of different types of wood all crushed, because that is a joint. It's a joint what we make today, and you stick another joint of wood in there, right? And if there's any joiners out there, they will know exactly what I'm talking about, and we're going to go a bit further.
The little tube drill holes there, again, you're talking at least diamond tip technology.
Diamond tip technology. So that's Brian Forrester there. So we will have a look at this. So this is the back side of that box where we were looking at it down there. That's that poorly scratched outline, and you can see just how bad this has been done, right? And it was not, and just look how bendy and wavy it is down there. So it wasn't a machine that did this, because it would have cut straight down there in a perfect line, right? It wouldn't have been wonky like this, would it? And it couldn't even do it in a full piece. They had to do it in sections, and that's why it's lumpy here. But just look at this material, this stone, whatever it is now, because it wasn't always this, I can tell you now. But it's this next artifact really that I want to get into quickly, right? Like I say again, the box in the Great Pyramid is made out of the exact same stuff as this, and this was wood, and not too long ago. So if there's any joiners out there in the comment section, right, I want you to back me up on what I'm showing here, because clearly another piece of wood went in this joint. And can you see where it's darker around the corners, where these drills, and they weren't tube drills by the way, they were just normal drills, couldn't get into the corner, because you know, you literally glue another piece of wood into this joint. That's why it's white, right? And it was like a joist, you know, something that held a roof up, or a beam, or something like that, right? No different to this sort of thing. Right? So again, if there's any joiners out there, I want you to back me up on what I'm talking about here. And this joint connection here is exactly the same as the beard area on the statue in Tanis, yeah? Remember when I showed you that it had 3 different levels of connections, and then there was a butterfly joint that the thing clipped into when it got damaged before turning into stone, right? These, like on the beard of the statue there at Tanis, where I showed you was made in pieces. And this is what I meant by it, like a butterfly clip, a locking key. And these apparently have been found through the ancient world, made from copper. And could never actually understand why you would be making little locking keys made from copper to hold such weights as 10 ton and more with just little pieces of copper. It made no sense to me at all, because they would break, and yes, copper does bend like gold, but still there's not enough metal there, people. Most of them will have been actually wood, right? So when I pointed you these stones all over the place, rocks, which are actually imprints of these things, don't always think that, oh, there's a locking key there, butterfly clip, it must have had copper in it. No, because I can tell you now, 9 times out of 10, they were made out of wood, because wood also bends and it expands as this gets wet and heat. Okay, that's why they're made from wood, and probably even a specific wood. This is just a closer example of the locking key on the statue's beard. How you know, what got me onto this new paradigm, which I have to thank a few people for. But anyway, there's a closer look at that. These images you can also go check on my Google page again. This second album, we'll be joining this together with this, with the part 1 there, rather than have 2 videos. And again, it depends how long things have been buried, where they've been buried, whether or not they were buried in mud, sand, lime, how damp it was, and how long, and what the material was made out of in the first place. Okay, will determine what it either petrifies into, leaches from, or leaves an imprint of. This is another one of those artifacts in a museum where they say it's been carved out, CNC'd or something out. I don't think this one has. I think this has turned into this material. It's almost like a mud rock, isn't it, when you actually look at it? It is just like a mud rock. Everything about it. The main problem and reason why I'm showing you this album now is in the last video there on tennis. I made a throwaway comment right at the end and just left it at that. These statues here were found in this condition. There's been others found in the same type of, rubble, right? And they will be moving around and rocks rubbing over them. And what devastation took place to actually put these here in the first place, right? So how much damage do you think would be on these statues, even if they would have been made from stone in the first place, which I've proved to you that they weren't. How much damage do you think should be on these things? So think about that for a few seconds, because this artifact that I'm going to show you shortly, this is actually a site in France, and this is wood. I don't know how old this is, but you can see what I'm trying to get at here. It's mainly turned into like a mud rock here, because this will have been buried in mud, right? More clay than anything else, and why it's turned into something like this rather than the artifacts I'm showing you. Yeah, so those statues, this one's slightly different but the next one isn't. I've actually got it, but again, the coloration down here, you can probably see that it is actually metamorphic rock, wood, petrified wood, right? And when you take a closer look at this stuff, right, this is important here, what I'm going to say to you now. They always come out with, and I used to say this as well to people, that these statues, we haven't got this technology, because when they CNC this stuff down, it stays shiny, and it stayed shiny for thousands of years, and the granite that we process goes dull after a decade. And yet this stuff, when they made it, why is it still shining to this very day? Well, I've just shown you where these things came from. So, and why is the face that sticks out more in that condition compared to the chest? It looks like wood underneath. I'll tell you what I think it is. It looks like it's been sprayed to me, right, by, the controllers, the falsifiers, archaeologists, whoever they are, have sprayed this thing with some type of like radiator paint, some type of metal spray. Can you see it? And they will do it every now and then, and that's why you get the shine on it and why it lasts so long. There's a look at that area there. This is an amazing image. It wasn't in the last video, this. And like these balls here, it just looks like some type of natural rock, this. You know, but I mean, you wouldn't be making balls out of rock anyway. It's just too heavy, but just look at the depth of this surface that's over it. And then it's softer inside there. That's something different, I think. But then when you look at this, I mean, this is about, I don't know, 2 millimeters thick. This stuff over it, I don't know if this is some type of lacquer or if this has been caused by the flood. But underneath here you can see how this has been built in sections, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be revealing a circular imprint of how this thing was built, like with bars and then things built onto it. This part here has for some reason been knocked down here, there, and somehow it didn't damage the rest of the structure. And you can see an imprint there. When you go check the image, look at right there and you will see a wooden beam, an imprint of a wood or metal beam that runs down the centre of this section here too. Okay, this thing here, well, that's a different artifact, I suppose, and you can see where the arms get jammed into here. But this thing in Egypt, if you look at where the leg has been knocked off, it's actually white. So this is like some sort of plaster, which is I presented 3 different paradigms, didn't I, in the last video, of how these things have been made. But yeah, it's white wherever this gets knocked off, because there's no natural rock anywhere that's just black with no grain or even bits on it. It's some type of lacquer or spray, or it turned like this during the flood. But this is plaster underneath here, some type of plaster. This artifact to me just looks like some sort of like paper mache, you know, but done with wood, crushed wood, right? That's been crushed into the shape, and then they've painted it or lacquered it or something like that. When you go check this image, if you look down here at the chin, you can see just still how this has been built in sections, repaired. It's actually on this side, you can actually see, like I was pointing out in the last video, it's right there anyway. But just look at it. I mean, this hasn't been CNC'd, has it? You know, both sides are just different, completely different, both sides. I'm getting into that moment anyway. That's in India, this is in Egypt, and that to me, I think it's some type of ebony wood, or it's again just some sort of lacquer, because we, you know, even today we haven't got a CNC machine that you could just move this artifact around, you know, on a beam, and have a CNC machine just come in at all angles and cut all these little fine pieces out. It doesn't even exist now, right? I think it's some sort of wood, and it shows. This here is obviously wood, again with some sort of lacquer over it, because this black stuff just doesn't exist, does it? But in the areas where it's got damaged, you can see it is in fact wood. This is actually plaster here, so these are made out of some sort of plaster or clay. That's that black stuff again. When you come and check this one here, have a look at the hat. You know, material thing that they put over the heads, because this has been built in sections, and if you look down there, there's actually a pleat where they could take this off and replace it. It's right there. What I'm saying is, if this were natural wood or even rock, it would not, you know, leave a pleat all the way around there in a perfect line and leave this bottom bit and top bit, right? It's because it's been built in sections. This find is, I don't know, about a year ago, 2 years ago, It's this area here, because one of the comments on the last video, as people were saying, some of this stuff could have actually been something like polystyrene. You know, something like that. And when you look at this stuff here, this just doesn't add up to me. It just looks like fiberglass. You know, I'm not joking. It looks like fiberglass. It's all the way through it, and it's exactly the same as this. That's the artifact I've just had on screen. This thing here, if you look around it, it's broken, hasn't it? And if you look around it, there's I mean, it looks to be about 2 inch thick almost. This lacquer stuff that goes rock hard that they've put over it, but it's the exact same stuff as this. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is.